Where's Steady? Steady back.
Yeah. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Hey, Maseches Chagiga. So we have a lot of long blot today. So let's
Long davening and long block.
long davening, long blot. So we got off. We left off on Hey, maybe around 8 and 9 lines from the top by Rabbi Yechanan. So we're discussing different Amorai tonight. Whatever, when the Chazal, when they got to certain psukim, they would be distraught. So Rabbi Yechanan, came out to like Bachi. When he got to the following pasuk, he would cry. The pasuk says, and says, "You have incited him against me." So in other words, Eved Shrav Masid Lo, and he says Takana Yeshlo. Right, so an Eved, a servant, right, whose master is incited, right, and he goes against him. Does that slave have any chance? And so do Bnei Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is incited against us, right? We have no chance. So the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yechanan Kimat L'Kra Bachi, right? And so that was it. And Rabbi Yechanan, when he got to this pasuk, he would cry. So Rabbi Yechanan Kimat L'Kra, you say the pasuk says, "Hey, the Kedosha Lo Yamin." So he says, if with those people who are holy, right, he doesn't believe. So if the holy ones, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, he doesn't believe. So with us, anybody else, could he believe? So once again, it was distraught, right? How will we at the end of 120, Hey Amar Aleph, be able to stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So one day he was on the pay, so he saw this person getting the figs. So Shavi hinach lematu, v'shakl hinach lematu. So he was picking figs. He wasn't taking the ripe ones. He took the ones that were not ripe. So Amalei lav hani malin tfei. So why are you not taking the ripe ones? Why don't you take the ones that aren't ripe yet? So Amalei hani leorcha b'inon lu. Right? Hani nashran v'hani lo nitron. And I was that I'm taking for the road. And the ripe ones are going to be no good for the road because they're, I don't need them right now. I'm going to need them in the future. So I need the ones that before they get ripe. Right? So Amar, Hain to the Chziv, that's what it says, so maybe that's what it means. That those people, right, who basically, even though despite the fact they have not sinned, right? So nevertheless, maybe they'll take away because maybe they'll go bad later on. Right? So maybe that's why those people who are Kadoshav, those people are taken early, right? In other words, the past, like the ripe ones, right? The ripe ones are not taken out because they're going to be bad later on. So the good ones also are taken from this world now because they're good now and perhaps they'll quote unquote spoil later on. So Aini, this true. How would tell me that the Havi B'Shushvi the Rabbi Alexandri? What the time there was a student in the neighborhood of Rabbi Alexandri, Vishachiv had dessert, and he died when he was young. So Amar Iboy Hamir Rabbanan Havi Chai. Says if he wanted to, he could have lived. He could have been better, right? Had he, been a better person, he would have been okay. Now, Vimisa. Now, if we have this further, we just said that maybe the good ones, right? Only the good die young, right? That the young ones are taken because later on they're going to, they're going to sour or get bad later on, so therefore they're taken now. Vimisa. Maybe this is the phenomenon of the pasuk. Maybe the pshat was had he been better, he wouldn't have been killed. The pshat was he died because he was good. Right? So the Gemara says no. So no. He basically he was rebelled against his teachers, and therefore that's the reason why he was taken. He wasn't so good, wasn't such a tzaddik, and indeed had he been better, probably he would not have died. And when he got to this pasuk, he would cry. This says v'kavesi alechem l'mishpat v'yisi eid memahir b'machshefim v'nafim v'nishboim l'shakev v'oiskei sahar sechir. So the pasuk says over there that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he gets the judgment, he will be the witness against those who do sorcery and adultery and swear falsely and withhold payment. So Eved Shirabo Mekarba Ladona, Umayr Ladino Takana Yesho, a servant whose master, right, that quickens him, hastens him to judgment, right, and testifies against him. Does he have any chance? Right, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does to the people. So he would cry from this pasuk. And also, what was to us, because he compares the severe ones such as adultery and sorcery to even the light ones of withholding paychecks. and swearing falsely. And Amarish Lagash Kolamata Dina shall
Just as bad.
right. Well, but the punishments are not as bad, right? One is Chai Misa, right? And the first is Socher Sechir, right? Withholding payment, that's not as Chai Misa, right? Such as adultery. And it says Lagash Kolamata Dina shall ger Ki'ilu Mata Dina shall Mala, right? One who goes ahead and perverts the din is like he's perverting the din of Kodesh Baruch Hu. Shemar says Umati, Kolamata Dina shall ger, right? One who goes ahead and he perverts right the din of a ger, right, of a convert is like one the din he perverts the din of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Shemar says Umati ger Umati ksiv or umai pervert right Kodesh Baruch Hu, right, you pervert justice for him. It's like you pervert the justice of a ger. And Amar Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Kalai said Davar umischarid bo ma'ichlin bo miyad. Person does something even if it's bad, but he has charata. He immediately regrets doing it. He is forbidden immediately. Shinamar, as the pasuk says, "V'lo yaruni," right? He didn't fear me. Ha yaruni ma'ichlin lahem miyad. But had he feared, in other words, they feared and they regret. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Then they're forgiven immediately. And Rabbi Yochanan came out to Lakra. He gets another pasuk. You see, he gets the Mei Psukim, very upset about Mei Psukim. Rabbi Yochanan once again came out to Lakra. Bachi you will cry. He has kol Maseh Elokim Yovi b'mishpat al kol nelam. Al kol nelam. So it says when Maseh Elokim, when he comes to the judgment, al kol nelam, that which is nelam or hidden, right, or done quietly. So Evan Sharabah Shekel Shigos Kizadonas. Takana Yeshlo. So a servant, right, whose master weighs those things that he does on purpose to those he does bemazed, right, or hidden, right? He doesn't even do on purpose, right? Does he have any hopes, right? So what's the Akol Nelam? So that which was hidden. So Amarav Zahayre Kina Chavera Venimasba, right? Let's say he even kills a louse in front of one of his friends, and he gets disgusted by his behavior. So even such a small thing he is judged by, right? It's hidden. So a person who spits in front of his friend gets grossed out. Ma im tovim ra. Then later the pasuk says im tovim ra. So Amri debate Rabbi Yana is a nice in What does it mean if for good or bad? Why should one be punished for good? Right? You only get punished for bad. What does it mean tovim ra? Right? So Zaha nice in tzedakah la'ani b'farhesia. Right? One who gives charity to a poor person in public. When he saw somebody giving money to somebody in public, he says, right? It's better that you shouldn't have given him. Why? Because now that he gave him, everyone sees this person is receiving charity, and therefore that person is embarrassed. So therefore, to give publicly, right? Therefore that would cause embarrassment. Yeah. So but I guess they come around. They come around. They bring it upon themselves. Yes. I say they bring it upon themselves. So they come out there publicly. But if someone,
what if they come right to your face?
Right. But if someone,
hey, look at me.
Right. Right. If someone, turns around and gives someone, in front of others, I heard you go through hard times. Here's some money, and all of a sudden others didn't realize he was going through hard times. Therefore, that's for what the pasuk is referring to. Fine. The Bei Rav Shila Amri is that nice and the Isha B'Seisa. That's like one who gives another form of giving charity, which that was good. The person who gives a woman money in privacy, they call it Ma'isila L'Didei Chashta, right? L'Didei Chashta, because people will say, all of a sudden, this woman has money. How did she get money? Perhaps it was something that was done immorally in order to get money. And Rav Amar is that right? That's one who goes ahead and brings meat home for Shabbos to his wife. That's not the forbidden parts are taken out. But Erev Shabbos, right? And Erev Shabbos when the time is short. And therefore, perhaps she's not going to go ahead and remove all those parts. Doesn't have time or doesn't know the difference, and will serve meat that's not kosher. I Rava Meshagish. I Rava did that. He brought home Erev Shabbos. He brought this meat. So Shani Bas Rav Chizda. So Rava was married to the daughter of Rav Chizda. Right? He knew that she was an expert. She knew exactly which parts had to be removed, the fats or whatever it was, and therefore it was not wasn't an issue. No. And Rabbi Yochanan Kimat Cry. We got this following pasuk. Bachi Cry Vayakivitzin also rose Rabbis Vitzaros, right? And it will be find the rose Rabbis Vitzaros. So Eved Sharabu Matzilo Rose Vitzaros Takana Yeshlo, right? So a servant, right, whose master brings them things that are bad, right, and suffering, does he have any takana, right? Does he have any way to go ahead and fix to do it? And it sounds like they compound one upon another, right? And so, what is that case referring to? My Ros B'Tzaros, Amarav Rosh Shinasis L'Tzaros Zulazu, right? In other words, that basically they compound upon one another. In other words, this bad thing happens, and even to take care of that, it gets worse, right? Kagon Zibura Vakrova, right? One who gets, I guess, stung by a hornet, right, and a scorpion. So I guess the two measures to fix that is heat and cold. But if you get stung by both of them, then you're going to add one; it will aggravate the other one. So therefore, there's no way to remedy it. Right? That's only like giving like money to a poor person at the time when it's very difficult. In other words, if he had give it to him earlier, it would have been okay. But now you're giving it to him when everything is very expensive and you can't. There's not much to do with the money. So therefore, that would be the same. And I'm a rabbi that people say zuza laliyah lashchicha latilis lashchiach. Right? The money. Let's two shot in Rashi. We'll go on second shot. Right? Money for food. Right? Is not found. Right, but money to hang up the food for something that's not necessarily as needed is commonly found. So when money is needed, right, then it's not provided. But when the money is really not needed or can't really be used, that's when it's provided. So in other words, the money is not provided during a time of when it can be put to its proper use to buy food and other items. So the pasuk says, and Hashem's anger will be against him on that day, and I will leave it and I will hide my face. Right? So Amarav Barla Barti Amarav Kol She'ena Behester Panim. So the pasuk says basically when Hakadosh Baruch Hu hides his face, it's a punishment. Eino Mehem. If a person is not part of Hashem hiding his face from him, i.e., that that times are difficult for him, then he's not part of the Jewish people. And Kol She'eno B'Vahayolechol, and also the end of the pasuk says, who is not part of when the enemies consume you, also Eino Mehem is not part of the Jewish people. So Amarle Rabbana, we're trying. So anyone has to leave early, we're trying to get to the bottom line, right? So anyway, Amarle Rabbana, but it moves, right? You see very few Rashis. So Amarle Rabbana the Rava Mar Lo Basterpani, he said, right? He said, right? You, right? Rava, right? He's very wealthy. He seemed to have all the money, right? Hakadosh Baruch Hu never seemed to go ahead and hide from him, right? The goyim never went ahead and took his money. So Amarlu miyadida kama mishtarana batzina beishver Malcolm. You have no idea how much taxes and monies and levies against me have come for me from Shver Malka, from the king of Shver Malka, right? Afilu hachi. Nevertheless, Yehuda Rabbanan and I. Nevertheless, the Rabbanan still were. They set their eyes upon him, not in terms of jealousy, but like this guy is, seems to, nobody takes his money. And Adachi shadid Beishur Malka v'garvu. And meanwhile, because of that, then once again, even though he already paid his taxes for the year, Shul Malka, once again, they seize more of his assets. So Amar Hainu, the Hainu, that's what we learned. The Tanya, Amar Rabban Shemigul, Kol Malka Shemigul Chamim Meneim. Right? Any place where the Chachamim place their eyes, they said, this person is too much, then either that person dies or he becomes poor. And indeed, that's what happened. They looked at Rava, and basically Shur Malka sees more and more of his assets. Right.
The irritation of him.
Yeah, I don't know if it was jealousy or they thought that he seemed to escape, right, what everyone else was going through. He seemed to be in his own, and therefore he had the downfall of them. Right, hide his face in that day. So Amar Rava, even though I have hid my face during from them, nevertheless during the dreams at night I will speak with him. And Rav Yosef Amar Yadin Netuya Aleinu, his hand is outstretched. It says, I guess in the shadow, right, of his hand, it will cover you. And Rabbi Shua ben Chananya Havikai Bei Kesar. He was once in the house of the Bei Kesar. Apikorsio. So a certain Apikoros was there. So the Apikoros, signaled to him with his hand, right? He said to him, like, Amad Adrina Mare Liape Mine. Right? Basically, he turned to him and says, hey, and you guys are a people that your God turned from you, right? That was like he signaled to him with his hand, and Rabbi Shua ben Chananya knew what he was referring to. That basically that he was pointing out that times were bad for the Jews and their God has turned from them. So Achvile, he turned to him. No, his hand is still outstretched to us. So that's what he signaled to back. So the Kesar, I guess, came in. What did he signal to you? I saw you guys signaling to each other. So he signaled to me. Right? So he signaled to me, hey, your people, your master has turned his face from you. But I signaled to him that no, his outstretched hand is still upon us. And Amrle, then the case I went over to this Apikoros, Amrle Lahu Mine. So he came over to that mean the Apikoros. He said, so what did you signal him? So he said, I signaled him. Right, that their master, turned his face on them. And what did he signal back to you? So he says, I don't know. So Amr Gabra de Layadi, my Machvile, Machu Yachavi Kame Malta. So he says, someone who doesn't even know what's being signaled to him, so he should be speaking with the Caesar, with the Kesar. So they took out this Apikoros and they killed him. Right, we're on the first wide line. What's going to happen after you die with all these Apikoros? We're going to have these fights with them, and we're not going to have you around to defend us. Right, so he says now the pasuk says, right, when you lose the wisdom, then also the wisdom of the others of the children will also be less. Right, so once you lose the chachma, the main chachma of the chachamim, then the other umos olam, their chachma is less. In other words, even though you'll lose your greatest defender, you won't have any strong accusers anymore. Right, says up there, and they'll go and they will travel and they will go alongside you, right? Alongside you, not greater than you. They'll never be greater, even though that your defensive, your all your the defense mechanisms or the fights won't be as strong. Their accusations won't be as strong. And Rabbi Eli Havisali Bedarga Debi Rabba Bar Shila one time. Rabbi Elo was going up the stairs or going to the attic of the house of Rabba Bar Shila. Shami Leinu Kadavi Kalkari. You heard this, or kids, they were learning Psukkah. They heard the pasuk says, Ki hine yaitze harim v'ruach umagi la'adam masicho. And it says over there, right, he creates mountain and all that, but he hears the conversations of the individuals. So Amar Evet Shirabo Magi Lo Masicho Takana Yeshlo, right? The master, right? A servant whose master knows everything he says, right? Does he have any hope, right? So my Takana Yeshlo, so my Masicho. What does it mean that the Sicha? Samarav Afilu Sicha Yisera Shabbat Ish Lishto, right? Magidan Lo La Adam Shas Misa. Right, even the conversation between a private conversation between a husband and wife will be, told to him, will be remembered at the time of his death. So Anis is true. Varav Kana. So now, is there something wrong with that? Varav Kana having gani to say mipure de Rav. This is one of Meir's. He always talks about this pasuk when he sees me. So he says Rav Kana. Rav Kana hid under the bed of his Rebbe. Right, the Rav is Shabbat the Sachaf. So he heard he was having relations with his wife, right? And he heard it before. He was talking with her and he was laughing with her. So all right,
famous Gemara Rebbe, the famous Gemara Rebbe.
Yeah, I know. I gave you a reference. So he said to him. So he said, "All right, today Pume the Rav, right? It sounds you, Rebbe, like you've never you've never tasted it before. You've never eaten before. In other words, it seems like this is." You've never had relations. So I'm like, Hana Pukla Barakara. He says, get out of here, Kana. It's not normal behavior to be under the, to hide under your Rebbe's bed. Nevertheless, but you see, but nevertheless, you see that he was talking with her. He was speaking with her before. He was being quote unquote frivolous, with her prior. So one is like kasha. One is, he had to appease her. One is not. If he didn't have to appease her, then there was no extra conversation. But if he need to appease her, then that was what the Maisa was, whereas the so that was the case. Then the pasuk says, the mistarim. Tivka nafshi mipiga. So it says, and if it hears, then you go with Mistarim and cry in Mistarim. So Omar Rav Shmuel Bar Ina Mishmei the Rav Mokom Yishla Hakadosh Baruch Hu Mistarim Shmo. There's a certain place that Hakadosh Baruch Hu has called Mistarim. It's like in the hidden chambers called Mistarim. And Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and it says over there, Kav Yachal would go ahead and I guess cry there. Right, that was the secret place. and because of mipnei gava, because of haughtiness. So what does that mean? So Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak mipnei kavasan sheyisrael shenit lameha v'nasan le'Rav Chacham, because the haughtiness that I guess the gaiva of Yisrael that once was, that was taken from them and given to Rav Chacham. And Rav Bar Nachmani Amar mipnei gavasa shel Malchus Shemayim, because of the haughtiness of Malchus Shemayim that used to have the ultimate honor, and then that was removed once the Jewish people were no longer on top. And there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu cry. That there is no sadness by Kadosh Baruch Hu. As the pasuk says, so it says over there that there's always glory in His place and majesty, right, and the happiness in His place. So like one is in the inner chambers when no one can see, or when can't be seen. That's where the sadness is. On the outside, that's where it appears as always the happiness. And there is no sadness outside, right? See, the pasuk says, "Vayikra Hashem Elokim," right? Hashem Elokim tzavakos bayomahu levachilu misped lekarchol lechagesak. It says within that day there'll be sadness, right, and crying and wearing of sackcloth. So shani charban Beis Hamikdash. No, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash was different. The afilu malchei shalom bachol. Even the angels of peace, they would cry. Shnamar says, "Hey, naraleim saku chutza malchei shalom mar yivichio." So it says over there that all the reilim, all the different angels of malachim, they were crying. Even the angels of peace, they were of a bitter sadness. Then the pasuk says, "The dama tidma, the teirad eine dima ki nishba eder Hashem." So it says, there was crying, there was tears that would come down from the eyes of tears, because the eder Hashem, the flock of Hashem, was nishba, was captured. So Amar Shlosh Damos Holos. It says Dama 3 times. So Shlosh Damos Holu Lama. So Achas al Mikdash Rishon, one for the Mikdash Rishon. V'achas al Mikdash Sheni. V'achas al Yisrael. Shegam Kaiman. And the third, so one was Mikdash Rishon, second was Mikdash Sheni. The third one was for Bnei Yisrael that was exiled from their place. Some say the third one was for Achas al Bittul Torah, was for the Bittul Torah, for the lack of Torah learning. So Bishlam Laman Damar al Yisrael Shegalu. It makes sense according to the opinion who holds that is because Bnei Yisrael was exiled, because the pasuk says Ki Nishba Eder Hashem, because it says over there that the flock of Hashem was Nishba, they were captured, they were exiled. Elaman Damar al Bittul Torah, my Ki Nishba Eder Hashem was part of the pasuk. Where do you see Bittul Torah? It says no. Kevan Shegal Yisrael Bim Kaiman in the Bittul Torah Gadol Mizu. Since they were exiled from the place, there is no greater Bittul Torah than this. And Torah Rabbanan Shalosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Chalem B'Chol Yom. For 3 people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu cries every day. First, for a person who has the ability to be Isaac B'Torah and is not. And also for the pain and suffering for those people who really don't have time or the ability to learn Torah, but they break their teeth over and are Isaac B'Torah, so it's almost like a good cry. And the Alparnes Hamizgala Tzibur, and a person is basically a supporter of the Tzibur, but he's like a Balgaiva. He takes advantage and abuses his power and his prestige in the community. And Rabbi Havi Naki Sefer Kinos, when he had Sefer Kinos, the Kari, the Gavi, he was reading Kimatai Psuka. When he got this one pasuk, the pasuk says, "He shlich v'shamayim eretz nafal min miyadeh." But it says, "Hakadosh Baruch Hu will send from the heavens down to the earth." Right. So this pasuk in Eicha, when he sends down to the earth, so the Sefer fell from his hand. So Amar, right, because it said it was so high, right? We were so high, we were in the heavens, and then we fell all the way down to the earth. Amar Meigra Ram Levira Amikasa, right? So we started all the way up, on the top of the hill, and we went down to the depths of the pits. And Rabbi Chia, Havi Shak, Levi Aziborch, and Rabbi Chia were traveling together. When they came to a certain town, Amri Ika Tzurban Rabbanan Hacha. These of if there's a Talmud Chacham here, let's go ahead and visit him. There is somebody here, and by the way, he's blind. So Rabbi Chia turned to Rabbi, says, "No, Tivat, but Tizaza b'nisiyosecha." I allowed to become ape. So he says, "You stay here, right? Don't it's like you're demeaning the seat of you're the nasi, right? For you to go ahead and visit this blind Talmid Chacham is not worth it. You stay here. I'll go ahead and I'll visit him." Nevertheless, Rebbe didn't listen, and Rebbe went along with Reb Chia. So they talked on learning for a certain period of time. When they left this blind individual, so Amar Lahu, so this blind Talmid Chacham turned to Reb Chia and Rebbe, and he says, you spent your time. You went to go ahead and greet somebody who is seen but cannot see, i.e., me, right? Because he was blind. So you should be zoicha to go ahead and see he who sees and is not seen, i.e., Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Samerle ika hashta minasan v'hayberchasa. So Amalei ika hashta minasan v'hayberchasa says. So Rabbi turned to Reb Chia, says, if I would have listened to you, you would have prevented me. You would have not allowed me to get such a bracha. So where did you hear this to know? If there's a Talmid Chacham traveling, you should get a bracha from the person. The Rabbi Yaakov Shmir, I heard from Rabbi Yaakov. The Rabbi Yaakov ish kfar chitio havi mekabel ape to Rabbi Kol Yoma. So Rabbi Yaakov, right? So he used to go ahead. I guess he lived in the village of Chitio. He used to go ahead and visit his Rebbe every day. Kikash, however, when Rabbi Yaakov got older, Amalei lo nistar mar lo yachil mar. So he said, maybe, when he got older, so the teacher said, maybe don't come today. It's too difficult for you. You're getting old. So I'm like, mizutar, is this so small, such a small thing for me to go see my Rebbe? I should see him every day. The pasuk said the Rabbanan. It says, vayichi od vanetzach lo yira hashachas kiyira chachamim yamusa. So it says over there, right? And they'll live those who will live forever, right? Those, right? So in other words, if he doesn't go ahead and see, so kiyira chachamim yamusu. So it says you see the chachamim every day. So if one who goes ahead and sees his chachamim, as the pasuk refers to in their deaths, or as they're dying, so yichya, he shall live. So too, one should go ahead and see the chachamim, right, when they're alive or when they're living. So too, we see here Rabbi Yaakov says that. So from this pasuk, I see that I should go ahead and see my teacher every day. So it's a chashuv even to see a Talmid Chacham. So therefore, that was Reb Chia. Said, where he learned the pshat to go ahead and see chachamim because that will give extra life. And Ravidi Avud Rabbi Yaakov Baridi Havi Ragil Havi Azil Tlasa Yarche Ba'orcha B'chad Yom B'Rav. So Rav Idi, right, the father of Rabbi Yaakov, who was the son of Idi, he used to go ahead and travel for 3 months, and then when he returned, he would one day in the base medrash, and then he would go off for another 3-month journey and come back and learn for a day. The Havi Karei Rabbanan. Bar Bei Rav, the Chad Yoma. Right? They called him, one day Rav. One day because he learned for one day. That was it. He was called one day. So Cholish Daite. So he got upset. Right? He was sad. Right? They're making a joke of me. So I'm let Rabbi Yechran. So said to him, Rabbi Yechran Matuza Minach Lo Tianish. He said, Lu. So he says, please, right? Don't be so upset, because if you're upset with the Rabbanan who basically, call you the same, they're going to be punished. So nothing. Rabbi Yechon the Midrash v'Darsh. Rabbi Yechon went to the Beishash and he darshan that, and he darshan then. But I see yom Yiddishun v'das darche yichbatzu. So he says over there, and for me, right, I'll go out during the day. And I'll go ahead and I'll seek HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? I'll seek His ways. So v'chibiyom darshan also, v'layla in darshan also. Well, only during the day we seek HaKadosh Baruch Hu, seek His ways, but not at night, right? El l'maylecha kol ha'isik v'torah afilu yom echad v'shana mala kasav ki'ilu ha'isik kol ha'shana kula. Person learns one day, it's like he learned the entire year. So too, we find the opposites, right? So now he was defending me. You're in the base session one day. It's Kilu. He learned that was what he was able to do, and there was Kilu. He learned for the entire year. So too, we find by Midas Parnas. The pasuk says, so it says, the amount of days that you guys sin, that's how long you'll be punished for. So it says, they sin for 40 days, for 40 years. They only sin for 40 days, right? With the Meraglim. We see that for every day that he sinned, it's like he sinned the entire year. So no, just like Vida Parnios, you learn a day, it's like you learn a year. So too, you sin a day, you sin a year. We'll stop with the 2 dots. Everybody, tomorrow, we will continue from here.